So my name is Mark Hampton. I'm an actor, but I'm also a filmmaker. So I'm a writer, director, and producer. And on my debut feature film, I was also the editor, the catering guy. It's a micro-budget movie, so it's one of those. So yeah, I'm a filmmaker, primarily generating stuff for myself as an actor, if you like. I have always been a filmmaker. Like right since I was a little kid, I was making home movies on a home video camera, recreating movies that I saw at the cinema, and that was always a passion of mine. I've always loved cinema. I went into acting when I was younger, and I was exploring that, very much cinematic, like film and TV. I took a break from that. I was making some short films and comedy stuff, and now that I'm coming back into the industry, I'm kind of coming back into it from a bit more experience, a bit more life experience, but really pursuing that lifelong passion of making movies. And so my very first movie really was the culmination of a lifetime of wanting to be a movie maker, not just film, not just shorts, not just TV, but cinema, movies specifically. So I'm really proud that I now have a feature film under my belt, because that was always my dream from a very young age. Yeah. And it's exciting to say that. If you'd asked me, would you like to have blown up and become famous then? Of course I would have said yes. But what I've come away with, is the emotional experience of having a family, having relationships, different working environments, and that's all learning that you can then bring to roles you play as an actor or things that you write and create as a writer-director. So from Unlicensed, my debut feature, I had worked for a Big Four accountancy firm. I'd been and audited some big stockbroking firms. So I'd seen the lifestyles that those guys lead, the expenses, the receipts, the kind of stuff they get up to at night, that all as part of the job. So that kind of fed into the story that I wrote for Unlicensed, which is about a disgraced stockbroker who's trying to rebuild his life after being done for insider trading. I've done some boxing stuff. I used that. I have family. I use the emotional, like I say, the emotional core of being a parent. That feeds into it. So really Unlicensed is the kind of culmination of all that life experience tied up into what I believe is a neat little cinematic story, which happens to be a family drama and a boxing movie. And it gives me the opportunity to kind of bring those things to the screen, both as an actor, but also as, like I say, the creator, the director, the writer, and bring a vision to the screen. None of that would exist had I not had all those life experiences, right? It was a very fast turnaround. And there is a lesson in here, which is that you don't shoot a first draft, but I did. And it was because it was by necessity. So I had a window of time in which to shoot Unlicensed, and I had a different story that I was planning on telling. Again, it was a boxing drama, but it was set in the university, and there was just too much risk with the university being portrayed in a not necessarily positive way, and not having the rights or the ability to use the university name. I live in Cambridge, and so I decided to scrap that for the time being, and that left me with a window of time to make a movie, some locations, some ideas, but no movie. And I had to come up with, so I met with some friends, we had some kind of quite rapid brainstorming sessions about what this thing could be, what character I could play, and what I could draw on from my real life, like the accounting experience and the city boy stuff and the family stuff, and how could I use that to create something that was going to be not easy, but like something that I could definitely get into as an actor, and that I could feel like I could deliver, that would make a powerful kind of big story as a filmmaker. And so I wrote Unlicensed in a month. I was getting up at 6 in the morning, I was writing for an hour and a half, and by the end of that month, I had a 90-page screenplay. We did the read-through with the cast. We started shooting on the 3rd of March, literally the next week. So it was a very, very fast turnaround. What that meant was some scenes we shot a first draft, and like when we had time to work the scenes with the actors, that was great. Some of them I had to do some rewriting in the edit, which was not ideal, but at least I had that ability to go back and do it. So yeah, don't shoot a first draft. The exception being unless you have to, and I had to, and now I have a film made. It was either make the film or don't. And so the first draft was the way that we went. It was an exciting time. It was a kind of crazy time, because we went straight in from writing the read-through into doing the boxing finale. We had a real boxing event, a crowd of 1,000 people. We were getting to shoot the interval of this event, so we had no control over anything. We had a 15-minute window, cameras set up in various positions to shoot our choreographed fight scenes, which we've been working on in the previous week, myself and the other actors in those scenes. And then we went and shot the stuff with this crowd. And then we went into the ring and shot all our close-ups after the event finished. And it was an insane first day of shooting, but it meant that after that first day, we had our finale. So there was a great sense of achievement of yeah, man, the fight's in the can. And that was really, really important, because it led us to be yeah, we know this movie is going to end big. It has real scale. And it gave us kind of confidence when we're in the smaller scenes to be yeah, this is this is going to have this more scale than the budget would suggest. And that was always the intention. I had a window of time from my regular work that I had to take off, and for whatever reason, I couldn't move it. I had a month free, and that was the 4-week block that we shot. Unlicensed, the principal photography unlicensed had to be in that block. So I was busy doing all the pre-production and organizing my crew, my camera crew, my sound guys, all of my cast, all of the locations, all of that stuff that I was doing whilst I was writing the screenplay. And I had crew members who were like, my DP was like, can I see the script? And I'd be like, no, there is no script, but there will be. And luckily, most of them had worked with me before on the short films that I'd done, and they had enough faith and trust in me to know that if I said it was going to be there, it would be there. And sure enough, it was. And we went and we shot, and it was great. I did 2 short films. One was called Town v. Gown, and that was Town vs. Gown. It's a boxing drama set in the university. So this is the thing that was going to be the original feature. But that had meant that I have done boxing sequences in a short film that I could then use that experience when we go to the feature. I'm directing, I'm in the ring, I've got a mouth guard in. Like, it's challenging to direct a scene when you're in the ring boxing, but you know, I was able to do it. I had the trust of my DOP, and he was fantastic, and we kind of got it done. So the fight scenes was something that I'd kind of already had a go at, so we were able to improve on that. And then the main shooting, like we did a lot of dynamic one-ers. I wanted scenes which kind of like move along. The camera's almost always moving. The film was almost entirely shot on a gimbal, so there's a lot of dynamic movement. And myself and the DOP had done a short film which was entirely shot on a gimbal and had been intended to be like a single shot drama. In the end, we ended up cutting it up in the edit. So on screen, the final cut, it isn't, but that was the intention. And so we had built a bit of that muscle of how do we capture an entire scene in a single take, keep the camera moving, make sure it's dramatically interesting, not just a kind of camera ego thing where we're like, oh, it's a one-er. Like, no, it has to earn its place as a one-er. And so, yeah, so I learned from those 2 short films, taught me different aspects that we were able to bring into unlicensed and really nail them because we'd done it before. So I always believe that something always goes wrong on every shoot. Something goes so wrong that you think that the whole shoot is in jeopardy because of it. But what I've learned over the years of working in productions, I used to work not only as an actor, but as an assistant director on various things. So I've been around production a lot. And what I've learned is that is never true. Like, if you have good people around you, there's no problem you can't solve. So after that boxing event, the first day on location was in a restaurant. We had this beautiful restaurant that we were using for like a week of shooting. A lot of the story takes place there. We arrived on day 1, and there was no power. There was no power to the building. We called out an electrician. The electrician comes out. So it's day 1. I'm already paying an electrician's call-out fee, and my budget is going up. And he comes and he walks in. He said, "There's nothing I can do. It's that the entire street has gone." And so we walked in, and there was no power to the building, no power to the street. We had like no way of lighting or shooting anything. And I walked in that day. The DOP had already arrived, and I walked in with this big smile on my face, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Look, every shoot, something goes so wrong, you think the shoot is done." And that has happened on day 1. Do you know how lucky we are? This shoot is going to be a breeze. We get over this, we have plain sailing. And so genuinely, I was like, yeah, this is the moment where we find out whether we can do it or we can't, and we can do it. So it was, you know, that was a challenge, but I knew that we would be able to resolve it. And sure enough, the power came back on. We got, you know, the guys came out, because it wasn't just us who had no power. It maybe made us start an hour later or whatever, or a couple of hours later, but we had to make up some time. We were doing a big, complicated shot. I deliberately chosen a really complicated one-er as our first location shot, just to give everyone that confidence of like, yeah, we can do this. And we got it. We made our day, and everyone left feeling fantastic. So, you know, that's one of those moments where like there's no challenge you can't overcome if you kind of put your mind to it, you know. And I was so delighted to have that challenge on day 1. My crew thought I was insane. Set a date. Like I said, I had a window of time that I had to shoot in, and that is probably the only reason this film exists, is because I was forced to shoot in this window of time, because there's always some reason you can come up with why it could be slightly better. It's not quite ready, and sometimes it isn't ready, but sometimes it's just you delaying the inevitable because you're worried about it. You know, it means a lot to you, and you're scared about it. And you just have to, and setting a date just starts to put things in motion, because other people, your stakeholders, your other crew members, your cast, you can start to say to them, this is when I need you. And if you tell your DOP, like, I need you for 3 weeks from this date, and they say yes, like, now that's locked in. And the thing starts to build its own momentum to the point where when you're an independent filmmaker, you're pushing the train to get it moving, but there's a certain point where it gets its own momentum, and then you're on the train with it. And that's the thing that happens when you set a date and start booking things in. It becomes inevitable that it's going to happen. And I've learned this, one of my earlier shorts, the political drama short that I did, I wasn't quite ready, the script wasn't quite ready, and I had this window of time because it was shot in a school. The schools were on holiday in this month of February, this is 2020, and I had one day to shoot it, and I was like, I could either wait until Easter when the next bunch of holidays and I could shoot then, and I could work on the script, or I could just shoot it. And I just shot it. And thank goodness I did, because like within weeks we were all shut down for COVID, but I had a film in the bag that I could do the post-production, the edit, all remotely. But it was a scene with like a crowd of people. It was like supposed to be like a congressman winning his election, and it's a huge speech to a huge crowd of people. It just wouldn't have been possible. And I really learned, like, if you've got the opportunity to go, absolutely go, because you don't know you think it's gonna be better in the future. The future might have something really different in store for you. And the future might tell you, like, no, we can't let this happen. And so just, if you can, just go. And that means, set a date, plan around that date, and unless something truly spectacular happens, make that date. And even if you slip that date by a week or whatever, it creates the energy towards getting started, and that's the most important thing. I've been coming to Cannes for many years. I consider myself still to be a beginner, a newbie, but I've met a lot of great people here. If you're a filmmaker or an actor and you want to build a really good network, places like Cannes, I think, are really important, because anyone can go to a networking event in London, in a pub or somewhere else. To get to somewhere like Cannes, you've got to put in the effort. You've got to get the accreditation, you've got to get the travel booked, you've got to kind of find the money to do it. And so when you meet people in Cannes, they tend to be people who get stuff done because they're here, right? And I think that's really important. And so you can build a lot of relationships. The one thing I will say about Cannes is you will not make a deal here. Don't ever think, the idea about Cannes is that you start relationships, you start meeting people that you might work with in the future, you might not, you won't know. Just connect with people as human beings and things will take their own path. Don't come in here expecting that you're going to walk away with a 3-picture deal. It won't happen, but you can have a great time. And that 3-picture deal could happen as a result of a meeting you have here, a chance encounter with somebody in a bar or in a pavilion or whatever it is. So come, enjoy it, be yourself, put yourself out there, take risks. See someone you know or someone that's famous and they're just standing there, go and talk to them. Just say hi. You're a human being, they're a human being. That's what it's all about.